The rugged wilderness of the Alaskan mountains was a place of breathtaking beauty and untamed danger. Towering pines stretched toward the sky, rivers carved through the landscape like veins, and the air was crisp with the scent of earth and pine. For Jake Thompson, a 32-year-old avid mountain biker and outdoor enthusiast, it was paradise. He had spent years exploring the trails, pushing his limits, and immersing himself in the raw power of nature. But one fateful afternoon, Jake's love for adventure would thrust him into a life-or-death situation that would change him forever. It was a cool autumn day, and Jake had decided to tackle one of the more remote trails deep in the forest. The trail was known for its challenging terrain and stunning views, but it was also notorious for its wildlife. Bears, moose, and wolves were common in the area, and Jake always carried bear spray and a whistle as precautions. As he pedaled along the narrow trail, the sun filtering through the trees, Jake felt a surge of exhilaration. The wind rushed past his face, and the rhythmic crunch of his tires on the dirt was almost meditative. But his peace was shattered when he heard a low, guttural growl behind him. Jake glanced over his shoulder, and his blood ran cold. A massive grizzly bear was charging toward him, its powerful legs propelling it forward with terrifying speed. The bear's eyes were locked on Jake, and its jaws were open, revealing sharp, glistening teeth. Panic surged through Jake's veins. He knew he couldn't outrun a grizzly, but he had no choice. He pedaled harder, his heart pounding as the bear's thunderous footsteps grew louder. The forest blurred around him as he swerved through trees, jumped over rocks, and navigated the uneven terrain. Desperate to lighten his load, he ditched his backpack, hoping it might distract the bear. But the grizzly kept coming, its breath hot and heavy behind him. For what felt like an eternity, Jake raced through the forest, his muscles burning and his mind screaming for a way out. The trail seemed to stretch on forever, and the bear showed no signs of giving up. Jake's thoughts raced. Should he try to climb a tree? Use his bear spray? But he knew climbing a tree wouldn't save him. Grizzlies were excellent climbers, and stopping to use the bear spray would mean certain death. Just as Jake thought he couldn't go any further, he spotted a small ranger's cabin in the distance. It was a miracle, a tiny, weathered structure nestled in a clearing. With one final burst of adrenaline, Jake reached the cabin, flung open the door, and slammed it shut behind him. He collapsed on the floor, gasping for air, his body trembling with exhaustion. Minutes later, a ranger arrived, alerted by the commotion. Jake, still shaking, recounted his harrowing encounter. The ranger's face turned pale as he listened. "You're lucky to be alive," the ranger said gravely. "That bear wasn't chasing you. It was being chased." Confused and still catching his breath, Jake followed the ranger outside. In the distance, they saw the grizzly bear again, but this time it was running away from something even more terrifying, a massive wildfire that had broken out in the forest. Thick plumes of smoke billowed into the sky, and the faint crackle of flames echoed through the trees. The ranger explained that wildfires had been spreading rapidly in the area, fueled by dry conditions and strong winds. The grizzly hadn't been hunting Jake. It had been fleeing for its life, and Jake had unwittingly been in its path. The bear's relentless pursuit had actually saved Jake's life by leading him to safety. As the reality sank in, Jake felt a mix of relief and awe. He had been terrified of the bear, but in the end, it had been a lifeline. The ranger and Jake quickly evacuated the area, joining other wildlife and forest service teams to monitor the fire. In the days that followed, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. He realized how easily he had misjudged the situation, assuming the bear was a threat when it was simply trying to survive. The experience left him with a profound respect for nature and its unpredictable power. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks later, Jake returned to the trail to retrieve his abandoned backpack. As he hiked through the forest, he noticed something strange, a series of deep claw marks on the trees, leading away from the trail. Curious, he followed the marks, which eventually led him to a hidden cave. Inside the cave, Jake found the remains of a grizzly bear's den. Scattered around the den were bones, fur, and other signs of life. But what caught Jake's attention was a small, whimpering sound coming from the back of the cave. Cautiously, Jake approached and found a lone grizzly cub, barely a few months old. The cub was weak and malnourished, its fur matted and dirty. Jake realized that the bear that had chased him must have been the cub's mother, desperately trying to protect her young from the fire. Overcome with emotion, Jake carefully wrapped the cub in his jacket and carried it out of the cave. He contacted the local wildlife rescue center, who took the cub in and nursed it back to health. The cub, named Ember, became a symbol of hope and resilience for the community. Jake's story spread quickly, captivating everyone who heard it. It became a tale of survival, unexpected heroism, and the delicate balance between humans and wildlife. To this day, Jake looks back on that ride with a mix of fear and gratitude, knowing that sometimes even the most terrifying moments can lead to miracles. If you found this story touching and inspiring, please like the video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you next time for more uplifting tales.